Welcome back. This is part 4 of a 5-part sales series. In this video, you will see how someone who is a dynamic relationship builder achieves a high level of success in sales. Hey friend, welcome back to part 3. In case you're just joining us and you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, we're doing a 5-part sales series where I started with a sales philosophy, which, by the way, if you're just now joining us, I think that's a great place for you to begin. If you see the link above, you can start with the sales philosophy, where it's a little bit of a longer video, but it helps lay the foundation for what we're covering and now these subsequent 4 videos. This is part 3 of 4, where we're going to talk about a unique sales approach that has to do with folks who lead with more of a relationship building type of strength. These are folks who like to be a little bit more social. They're energized in social spaces and through interactions with the other humans. And just to kind of paint the picture of what we're about to jump into, like in other videos, in this series, I'm going to cut where you're going to be able to see me working with a group of people. Now, a little bit of background, I know I mentioned this in the other videos, is one of the things that I do is I work with corporations and I help their teams become more cohesive. And I help them become more dynamic in their sales process and as leaders by helping them really understand who they are uniquely and how their unique approach helps them be successful in sales and in leadership. Today we're talking primarily about sales. This week we're talking about sales. You'll see in the future I'll have some similar content around leadership. But my desire with this video is to really give you insights into this is one of the top fastest growing sales organizations that focuses in the tech world in the United States, and they have some of the top salespeople within their organization. And the folks that I was working with in this room are the best salespeople within the organization. So the reason why I'm sharing these videos is because it gives you some insights and stories around how people with different key personality types or characteristics might approach sales, so you can hopefully find yourself in these stories a little bit. The other thing I'll say before we cut to the video is remember, you're going to see a grid on the screen. That's the CliftonStrengths grid. I'll have a link to the CliftonStrengths assessment below. Just know this, you don't have to take the assessment to find a relationship to the content that I'm giving here, because we're going to talk about it after the video and help you think through, if you don't have your CliftonStrengths assessment, what is some of the personality characteristics that we're seeing here, and do you self-identify with it? Because you know yourself better than anyone. So we're going to cut to this video and then join me at the end of this 2 to 3 minute video when I kind of do a little recap and help tie it all together to help you understand how someone with high relationship building strengths achieves success in sales. Unlike the relationship builder, this is someone who has high relationship building strengths. What I hear often from people with high relationship building strengths is, please come and talk to me while I'm in the middle of my process. They love the opportunity for a conversation, right? These are the people that really derive energy from human interaction. True extroverts. That's not this person's story, though. This person told me a story about how they had just started covering a new territory, and nobody, I think it was something like 15 years of people covering that territory, weren't able to get this huge business. It was this huge business client. And so she decided, you know what? I'm going to use my futuristic, and I'm going to target this huge business client. And you know what she did as soon as she figured out which business it was? She just showed up and ran into a security guard. And you know what she did? She built a relationship with the security guard, and he let her in. First of all, he should be fired. But she's phenomenal because she did what relationship builders do best, right? Built a relationship with someone, got them to like her. He let her in.
And then she goes around and she finds a manager, builds a relationship with that manager, and he introduces her, or she introduces her to the gatekeeper or the person in charge who makes the decisions. And of course, she built a relationship with the decision maker and won the account. Friends, I'm high strategy. I'm low relationship. I would never just show up to a business. I'm sweating right now just thinking about it. That is not going to be my approach. So many of the high relationship builders in this room told me a very similar story. Chad, I'm not selling big time off of just business cases. It's about getting in front of the people, winning them over, and building relationships, and they just say yes.
Okay, what'd you think? Relationship building. Relationship building is one of my favorite strengths in the sense of a couple of things. One, you should know, and I think I mentioned this a little bit in this video, is these are the folks that inside of an organization, if you have folks on your team, they are the ones who are super social, right? They're asking how your weekend was. They're keeping us communicating with one another. They make sure others feel like they're a part of the team. You feel warm and welcome around them. They just have a sense of like really loving people. People with really dominant relationship building strengths, as seen as that chart, you often find them as true extroverts, right? These are the folks who just are energized by social spaces. Unlike myself, right? I'm a person who I can turn on in social spaces, and in the next video you'll learn about influencing, and I'm someone who's high influence, right? Influencing means that what you'll learn is like you can show up in a social space and be really dynamic, but your battery is fully charged in those moments, and then it's depleted as you go. For someone who's a true extrovert, they show up and they're energized by the process. I love this story that this person had for me, because it's so often I hear for folks that are very dominant relationship building, I find this story be more and more true. And again, remember, I'm talking about top salespeople. These folks that I was working with in this specific group was with one of the fastest growing tech companies in America, and this was their top salespeople within the organization. So when you're hearing this story, this is from a girl who has perfected her craft over the years. So you'll notice it started with, she had a clear plan, right? She has a little bit of strategy. She used that to cast a vision into the future about what she wanted out of her territory. And then she showed up in a way that's unique to her. She just showed up and started talking to a security guard. How many of you want to just show up and start talking to a security guard? That is not my approach. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, right? But this person, she knows that she's charming, she's engaging, and she trusts herself to just be able to build relationships with whoever she needs to along the way in order to eventually get to what her target is, which she does have a North Star. She had a clear target of where she was trying to go. Now, while this is a very high-end salesperson who understands themselves pretty well, I'll encourage you to remember that if you're a person that you find yourself high relationship building and you love like chatting and connecting with people all the time, remember that a pitfall that you might have is that it's hard for you to focus on the task ahead. So it's important to keep yourself in environments where you're engaging with clients and making sure that your chit chat has a purpose, right? Making sure that your relationship building. I had a mentor tell me one time, her name was Kimberly Czar. She was my district manager when I worked for a short time at a smaller bank, and she went out with me on a business call, and I had built this cool relationship. It was like the second business call that I had ever went on, and I just chit-chatted with these people the whole time, and I felt so good because they liked me. And as we were driving back and we left with no business, she said, Chad, I want you to remember something. That lapel pin that you wear means that you work for the organization, and your purpose is to turn relationships into sales. So while you're really great at building relationships, right, you need to be turning those relationships into sales. Now, again, I'll plug my first sales philosophy video. That's not through like trickery. That's not through creating false urgency and pressure. It takes a skillful approach going in to either do it like this person did, which is build a really great relationship, know what your target is, and relentlessly pursue that while you don't have any boundaries and you have a clear path ahead and people are saying yes to you. Just know what your style is and trust it. But also, if you're a person who doesn't feel comfortable just showing up to somebody's place of business, hey, that's okay. What's a different approach that works for you? What is a different way of getting in front of the business owner and the decision makers? It might not be this, right? I think that's all I really want to say about the relationship building folks right now. Just know that they're such an important part of our teams inside of an organization because they create a culture of psychological safety. They make people feel like they belong. And having a sense of belonging when you're part of a greater team is so important. So as a salesperson, when you see those people on your team, make sure to lock arms with them and all of you together, regardless of the dominant characteristics that you lead with, should lock arms and tap into the collective intelligence of your team. Because the thing is that we all need a little bit of strategy, we all need a little bit of relationship building, we all need a little bit of influencing, and we all need a little bit of executing. And people that are more dominant in those categories can help bring out those aspects of us that naturally exist, but maybe we just haven't tapped into as much because in our early childhood we didn't need those skills or approaches to life in order for us to be successful, and yet they all matter. So make sure to lock arms with your teammates as you're going down this path and figure out, even if you don't take the assessment, you can start understanding for yourself, like, oh, I'm more of an introvert, but I love working hard. You're probably high executing, right? Okay, I'm going to wrap up this video. I got one more after this. You'll see this one on Friday this week. This is going to be about influencing, and then we will be wrapping up our 5-part series around sales. Remember, advice is like eating fish. You've got to pick out the bones. Have a great day.